This is the Run Recap.
How was your run?
Oh man, the last time I went for a run in earnest, it was probably okay. I'm a punching bag cardio guy these days.
Yeah, we used to run quite a bit, but haven't had the time to do any together lately. But I got Brian James here. Brian, been longtime friends, band members, collaborators, workout partners, definitely for a long period. And we've done a fair amount of running together. So I thought it'd be actually interesting to have you here. Well, one, because David couldn't make it, but so David's a distance runner, right? So and I'm a sprinter. So we always have that back and forth between us. And so I thought it'd be really interesting to have you here because you're not a runner.
True. Yeah.
Having done a lot of running. Yeah. Right? Currently, at least that's how I would define it. Right now, you're not running.
Yeah.
Right? Would you call yourself a runner in any way?
No, I guess I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Which is odd because I would say I haven't been doing a lot of running lately and I miss it and I think about it. I still fondly remember like kind of city running routes that I've figured out in other apartments I've lived in. And I like fondly think about like runs I've been on.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'd call myself a runner, but maybe I should.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Everybody has that a different definition of being a runner, you know, because you got the hardcore distance runners that are like, well, you're not putting in 50, 80, 100 miles a week, so you're not a real runner.
Yeah.
And you have people like me who are like, well, if you run kind of here and there, I call that a runner. It just depends.
Yeah. Well, I think, my philosophy of running is going to be probably fairly in line with yours, just since, you were the first person I really ran with in earnest.
Yeah.
Anything I learned about technique or breath work or mental mindset was all stuff that we did together.
Yeah.
Running. So definitely days where like either I feel like I need to get a run in and I just want to get out and do it and I want to be done as fast as possible and I have accomplished it and I'm done. Great. Awesome. And then, there are days where I'm like, maybe I'm just kind of in a foggy headspace or I'm thinking through a problem or I just want to just kind of be by myself for a while and I'm going to go do, a long run for me, 4 or 5 miles just to kind of zen out a little bit. And those are equally valuable to me. And I think there would be no pre-planning on what kind of a run I would do. It's just what mood strikes me in that moment.
Wherever your feet take you.
Yeah.
Well, leaving the house and seeing what happens.
Sure. Yeah.
You definitely have my influence of running for sure.
So maybe in like, I wouldn't consider myself a runner in that there's not a lot of forethought. There's not a lot of planning. There's not really a program. It's just kind of a thing I like.
Yeah.
And we just see what happens when we put the shoes on and just see what happens.
You did it real consistently for a while though. We did everything from like pretty consistent track sprint workouts for a while, for probably a couple of years.
Yeah.
We're up on Capitol Hill doing a lot of different intervals and speed work. And for somebody who doesn't have an athletic background, you always surprise me on how athletic you are and how fast you are.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Cause you're 6'2"
I am
or whatever.
95% legs. Yeah.
And so you're quick and you have long legs, but still, I would be pushing my pace and surprised that we're still like there.
Yeah.
Still with me. Cause it was surprising. It was impressive. But then during that period, you would still go out and do a ton of running all the time. How did you get into, I know why, but maybe talk about how you got into fitness or any of that kind of stuff, running or weights or whatever, because when we first met, I don't think, and as far as I'm aware, growing up that was not in your world.
Oh, not at all.
Right?
No.
Was there anybody in your life growing up that was like that, or that would do anything physical, sports or gym or anything?
No, not at all. In fact, I was the kid whose parents, for better or for worse, but probably mostly for worse, I was allowed to just quit anything if I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So I played baseball, I played soccer, I played a little bit of tackle football, I golfed, I did some swimming, and it was all stuff that I would do for maybe a season. Yeah. And I was like, I don't like it. And I just kind of had the okay to be like, that's fine. Just don't worry about it. So nothing ever really stuck. Mm-hmm. And then I found the arts.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is where I'm going to put 100% of my motivation.
Yeah.
And that's just the direction I went. And it didn't even cross my mind that I would like going for a run. I remember in high school, if you took 2 choir classes or 2 music classes, you could just not have to do gym.
Yeah.
And it was the easiest decision of my life to just be like, oh yeah, I don't know. I'll learn how to play any instrument if it means I don't have to go to gym class.
It's funny that those are equal in the eyes of educators.
Yeah.
Like, as if they're both creative endeavors. Like, you can go to choir and do that. You could sing.
Yeah.
Or you could run and work your lungs in a totally different way. They're such not similar things.
Oh yeah.
It's so funny.
Not even close.
Like, oh, you don't got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You could stand on a stage for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I historically was the kind of person that would say like the only time I'm going to be running is if, I don't know, something is chasing me.
Yeah.
And that would be kind of funny. I feel like every once in a while I'll see, it's common to see bumper stickers on people's cars with, like the marathon distance. Remind me of the half marathon and marathon distance.
As a sprinter, I'm probably getting these wrong.
It's how many times do you do 400 meters to do a marathon?
Exactly, because the half is 13 point something, and then the full is 26 point something.
Yeah, so a 13.1 or a 26.2 bumper sticker with the marathon distances, and then every once in a while you'll see the big ones that just say 0.0.
Yeah.
And I think there was a time when I would have been like, that's pretty funny. But yeah, I think I had a kind of a sea change.
Yeah.
To getting into that, which is, I guess, the question that you actually asked.
Yeah. What got you motivated to, what got you into it?
Yeah. So for me, there was my two main male role models growing up, my dad and then my uncle. So my uncle on my dad's side were like the two men in my life that I was the closest to, that were, the biggest influences and mentors to me and everything in my life. And as they got older, my dad was someone who was physically not active at all, had no interest in taking care of himself. It was just his body, his mental health, that stuff was not a priority to him. And my uncle was someone who was the exact opposite. He was, I wouldn't say athletic, but he rode his bike, every day. He ate well. He did things that I think were healthier and more active. And as both of them got older, my dad is gaining weight, is diabetic, is on handfuls of medications, and my uncle is none of those things. He's just not at risk of any of these. There's no heart disease, there's no diabetes, there's not a fistful of medications to take every day.
It's a very clear contrast.
Yeah. And that was a moment where I was like, oh, these are two very clear paths that I can go on as I get older. Which one seems more appealing to me?
Yeah.
And I think the healthier lifestyle just kind of made more sense in that, like, long term, this is the kind of lifestyle I want. And I want growing up and getting older to be maybe a little easier, a little more graceful, a little less full of pain and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But what started though? Because I remember when we were playing music a lot back in the day, we would, coming from, college athletics and stuff, I was, even though during that time I wasn't working out that much actually, but I would still run. I would still do stuff. I would always like to be active and stuff, but I always felt that you were, and maybe this is wrong, but I always felt you were really resistant of like the gym or anything like that. Is that accurate?
I think that's totally fair. Yeah.
So what got you, what was the stepping stone to, because like now, like you've been in the gym, aside from the injury you had last year before, you've been working out in some capacity for a long time.
Yeah, it's been
really long.
years at this point. Yeah.
So what was the catalyst? What got you, what shifted the mindset to like the gym is this terrible place? And
I think, I still think the gym is a terrible place. No, it's not true. Actually, I think maybe
kind of true.
Sometimes. I think maybe a lot of it was, again, I feel like I know what the root of the question you're asking is, and I'm going to try to get to it. I think getting into a little bit of like bouldering and sport climbing was the big, now why I woke up one day and was like, I think I want to go to a bouldering gym and learn how to climb. I have no idea. But it seemed interesting.
Yeah.
The idea was cool. The idea was kind of motivating just to try to learn something new. And I mean, I went into that with zero, not really even much of a, I don't know what you would call like, just like a sense of my limbs, my body. I didn't really possess much of that. No strength, no fitness.
Yeah.
But that was something that grabbed me. I was like, this is kind of fun. I could see maybe getting better at this.
Do you remember what the catalyst was? Because I remember, we started more or less doing that together.
Yeah. And that was the gym. Like there was a little bit of training stuff at the climbing gym. And I remember asking you, because I don't even know that you were certified yet.
I was just starting to train. Yeah.
Yeah. We're like, working on that certification and you were really, super passionate and like pushing toward what you're doing now. And I think I was like, oh, there's this person in my life that I can lean on that can work on this stuff with me and I can learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Why? Why did I make the decision to do it?
Yeah. It's funny because I was trying to think back to that time when we would go and like to band practice, and then before or after we'd go climb.
Yeah.
And that was like, we did that for a while before you started like doing any like actual weightlifting or gym stuff. And I couldn't remember what the catalyst for the climbing was, and like why that all of a sudden piqued your interest. Cause I wasn't even that into to climbing at all. Like my brother and I talked on the last episode or recently about our experiences climbing, which have always been very dangerous and almost getting severely hurt every time. It's like I kind of knew how to climb up things, but I didn't know how to climb. You know what I mean? And then you popped the idea, and then we just started going like 2-3 days a week.
Yeah, because David's like an outdoor. Does a lot of bouldering.
He's an outdoor guy,
climber.
and got into more and more climbing stuff over the years. But like, growing up, we weren't like into rock climbing. We were into like, especially for him, he was like, I would go run. Oh, and I'm going to climb up this rock too.
Yeah.
And then that just got dangerous at a certain point because your eyes are bigger than your abilities. And you're like, oh, I can make it up there.
You can definitely
and then
get up there.
like, he was telling me this one story. He gets up to the top and he literally by himself, he couldn't get down. So he had to climb down this very dangerous rock that was like, I don't know how high it was, but probably like 50, 60 feet up to like death below, like he can't do anything. And he was up there for a while, and he was saying that he like, no one knows where he is. He's out in the middle of nowhere on a run. Like no one's going to find him for a while. No one's going to come across his path. He's like 10 miles in to a run. But I think that at that time in my life, when I was getting certified, I was kind of not resistant, but I wasn't stoked on and excited about doing strength training as you kind of traditionally think about a lot of weightlifting, that kind of thing. I have done a lot of that and had done a lot of it previously, but it wasn't exciting to me. So I was doing a lot of what people describe more as like functional workouts, where you're throwing stuff, you're jumping, you're picking things up, you're doing walking up a wall, on your hands and that kind of thing. And maybe that was the catalyst for you is because you wanted to make your climbing better, so you wanted to supplement? Was that some
I think that seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And that I know that we've talked a lot about this, and I'm sure you've talked about this on the podcast, that I don't know if this is kind of still your philosophy.
That too.
But I know it was for a long time of like, going to the gym and working out we're thinking about it as like it's lifestyle. It's
Yeah.
what kind of things can we put in place that we can do that we're going to be able to keep up with
Yeah.
week after week, year after year, that will keep us more functional, more limber, less prone to injury. And I think that concept definitely for me would have been way more motivating than
Yeah.
you just need to walk over to a barbell and start lifting weights. It's intimidating.
Yeah, it is.
And I think the idea of like, you can do all this stuff just with the weight of your own body. You
Yeah.
can do it outside at the park. You don't need to do it in the gym. You can just supplement and add these little things in.
Yeah.
And it's all going to be beneficial.
Yeah, I think so many people think about the gym as a place where you go and you lift heavy weights in this specific way, and that's how you exercise, and that's it. And it's easy to get stuck in that, but that was never appealing to me growing up. I mean, even still, like I still will work out like that a lot, but it's still not the way I want to that much. There's a value to it, but it's not the most. It's not appealing. It's not fun looking to me, even though actually that's the kind of style workouts you've been doing for a while. Because those are the ones I've been writing for you.
Yeah, a different program. But I think there still is, I am very, very lucky to have a best friend trainer who will just program workouts for me. It's pretty amazing. Even then, in the middle of any strength, anything, there are these flashes. There's these Mike Uhlencott moments where I'm the one guy in the gym who's doing like single leg, single arm, off balance, like negatives with like, whatever, a 5-pound dumbbell standing on a Bosu ball. And everyone's like, what is this guy doing? I'm like, it's weird. It's this functional thing, and it's core balance, and I'm trying to work on muscle imbalances, and I don't know. Oh yeah, that's a mic exercise.
Yeah, I have a trainer, John, that always comes in every time you're doing any of the programs I've written for. You're like, it's one of Mike's, huh?
Yeah.
You're like, yep, one of Mike's.
Yeah, if the last thing in your workout is 5 30-second handstand holds, it's the most. You're like, did Mike write this workout? Yeah, obviously Mike wrote this workout.
That sounds like a joke, but it's
not a joke.
It's definitely in the program.
Yeah, you do it every Friday.
Oh man, it works though. It's fun. It makes it exciting, right?
I totally agree. Yeah. Well, and there have been times, when we've worked out together where, maybe I would come in and just, had kind of a weird day or a weird weekend, or I was in a crummy headspace or something was going on. And I would remember just being like, can we just do something fun? Which is weird to say in the context of like, you're going to do a workout and you're going to be burned, and you're going to be sweating, and you're going to be breathing hard, and you're going to be sore, but we can make this fun and engaging and interesting and dynamic.
Yeah.
And that stuff is so cool.
Yeah.
Just adding that element that, is going to prevent burnout and just add a little bit more motivation, and having that tool set where I could come in and look at the program I'm supposed to do and be like, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm just going to do battle ropes all day, because I know it's like something I know how to do that I think sounds fun.
Yeah.
It sounds interesting and different, and there's going to be value to it. And you know what, tomorrow I'll come and do deadlifts or whatever.
Yeah, and that's there's so much value that a lot of people don't, I think about when they're starting, or maybe they're in their fitness journey, that it, to a certain degree, maybe not a certain degree, because you probably heard me say this so many times, it just doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
If you have a very specific lift you're working on, or very specific performance-oriented goal, then it matters. But if you're trying to be healthy and strong and live a good life, it just doesn't matter. Like, follow a program for a while and then do something else. Like, do very strict bodybuilder style strength training for a while, so you know what that feels like, and then go do calisthenics, and then go do some yoga, or go do some cross training. Like, it it just doesn't matter as long as you're healthy. It all keeps you strong. It depends on what you like. And then you have the tools that now you have of like changing it.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not in the mood for this. I'm not on a strict program as far as like performance. So this isn't fun. I'm going to do something else. That's a lot of fun. And to have that in your tool bag.
Yeah.
Like that's so much, it's so nice. I think a lot of people just don't have that.
So I want to, I've transitioned. There was a question I was thinking of I wanted to ask you. But I think maybe my transition into it is that for me, someone who I think has had a lot of experience with depression, anxiety, just a lot of, kind of mood disorder things.
Yeah.
There is something to be said for just putting your shoes on and stepping out of the apartment or stepping out of the house and being able to feel pride in that.
Yeah.
And that for me is a lesson that was really hard to learn. I still have to work on it.
Yeah.
But to just put your gear on and just start moving in that direction, just step out of the house and see what happens. Like to be able to do that and be proud of that, feel rewarded by doing that is so huge. Like not everything has to be a massive victory. Like day to day, tiny little victories are what I think for me keep me going.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people get lost in the, they get lost with the motivation. They want the motivation to be there in order to do something.
Yeah.
Or if we're talking like, you're in a, whether you're actually depressed or you're kind of just in a down state and you want to get out of that funk, people think they need to, they need to get out of the funk by, controlling it versus doing something external where your actions lead to the mood change, because your actions release endorphins that can contribute to a mood change or help with the depression.
100%.
It's not gonna like necessarily go away on the first time you do something, but like you're saying, you put on your shoes and you go outside and you don't think about how you feel about it. It's like, this is what has to happen. I'm gonna take these steps and I'm going to go and do this task. And it doesn't matter that you have to complete the whole thing, but you put on your shoes, you did a thing, you made it back, done.
Yeah.
And the next day you do it again.
Yeah.
And then you do it again. And then before long it goes away.
Yeah.
Or it diminishes, or it puts you in a headspace to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Something. You will make progress in some way.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm sure everything in life, I mean, even things that, going to the gym, even as much as like you and I think enjoy doing it, love doing it.
Yeah.
It's still, there's days when the last thing in the world I want to do is that. And I think a lot of things in life are like that, but man, sometimes that roller coaster of walking into the gym and just being pumped up, like looking at your workout and being stoked and like pushing and feeling strong and like setting, doing 3 RMs, just feeling good.
Yeah.
And then the next day, it's just like you have to dig so deep to get anything to push you through it. And that, I don't know that will ever go away.
Not my
experience. And I don't know that any athlete, but so I'm curious for you as an athlete and as a trainer, and forgive me if you guys have talked about this on the podcast before, but how you feel about the difference between motivation and dedication. Like both as someone who is training, as an athlete, and someone who works as a trainer with clients. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I know what you're asking. And it's for myself, it's tough because you've been doing something for so long that it's become a habit of some kind, right? I still fall off of working out all the time. Life gets busy or you get unmotivated and you stop. But I think when you've been doing it for as long as I have, and to be honest, as long as you have, the motivation becomes less of a big deal because the habit is built.
Yeah. And
so for people who struggle with a motivation, then you just have to find out how to trick yourself into doing the thing, because to me, the motivation just doesn't matter. It's not a huge part of it. I think the people who have a ton of motivation are the gym rats. They're the dudes that are in there for 2 hours, 3 hours, and they just love it.
Yeah.
And they might have a crummy day where they're not feeling it, they're not motivated, but for the most part, they're into it, right? At least that's my perception. But being someone who doesn't like being in the gym that much,
Yeah.
I like the endorphins afterwards. I like to feel good when I go do my hobbies. I like to be mobile and strong and all the stuff I do. So I would say that's my motivation. But as far as like a daily motivation, it's, I would say, almost non-existent.
Yeah.
You know, I have a newborn, and I've been to the gym. Let's see, she's like 3 weeks old or ish. And I've been to the gym at least 2 to 3 times a week since she's been born.
Yeah.
Partly because I have a toddler that needs to go do something.
Yeah.
And so we go to the
You
gym,
need that
right?
kid to run around.
But also because I'm like, I don't care how lack of sleep I'm getting. I just need to go move. My workouts are garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't call them from a like muscle building or fat burning perspective. They're not productive.
Yeah.
But there's something. You know, I moved, I got some blood pumping.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of a sweat. I did something, and that keeps the habit. If you do nothing, then the habit starts to slip, and then you start thinking that you have to find motivation to get back in. Whereas the motivation, I don't know, it's just not as big of a factor for me at least. But and maybe that's the slip up that a lot of people are running into, is they think they need to be motivated to go, and the motivation needs to come from somewhere else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
That's 100% what I'm asking. Yeah, I mean, it's those workouts, like you put your shoes on,
Yeah.
and you got out of the house.
I would say most of mine are like that.
Yeah. And I think for me, I'll joke a lot that like the reason I go to the gym is because it's on my calendar, which means I have to do it. And that's kind of the whole thing. Like, I go to the gym kind of for the same reason I go to work, because it's something I do and it's on the calendar and I need to get it done. And that, I guess, is the dedication side of it. And days I'm motivated and days I'm not. But man, after a week or a month to look back at, you know, the progress I made or what I accomplished or how I'm feeling, that reward even if I had no motivation for a month, the reward at the end is always huge. And that's where it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's like a delayed gratification thing sometimes.
Yeah, well, I think it's a lot of people, maybe it's our culture that we're in or something, or I don't know, you chalk it up to whatever it is, but we just we're not willing to put ourselves through a long thing to get the result from it, you know, and especially when the result does take time, and not just like you're talking like a week, you know, but it takes to feel to get to a point where you feel like you notice, oh man, I need to move my body. For some people that can be like a couple months to a couple years in of exercise or fitness.
Sure, yeah. Before
they start to notice that, where they're like, oh no, like it's been a week or two and I haven't done anything. I need to do something.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know what we chalk that up to. I think a lot of people just don't get to that because they don't put in the time and don't put in the time leading up to it, right?
Yeah. I've had moments where like I've been a little bit interested in learning languages.
Oh yeah.
But just kind of on a surface level.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done this several times where I'll put a month or 2 months into like really actively trying to learn a language, and then I fall off of it.
Right.
And then, 6 months later, I'll think, I should work on learning that language again. That was something I really enjoyed. And I always think, if I had just kept doing it for the last 6 months, where would I be right now?
Right. You'd be like at least half fluent or mostly fluent or whatever.
And like, you can't, it's a thing I could think of, but obviously it's impossible. It's not going to happen. But that I don't know if that's motivating or not, but the idea of like, well, shoot, I could have been way further ahead, but for whatever reason I fell off of it. But also, that can't be a reason to not start up again. Right.
That's definitely not a reason to not start up. But I understand that concept. And for me, it's like the why has to be important. And maybe that goes back to motivation, but like for languages, because I did the same thing. I lived in Slovakia for 2 years when I was 11 to 13, and so I learned a language there, and was, I would say, a decent amount fluent, right? I could hold conversations and talk to people and get around everything. And then obviously you move back to the States and you fall off, right? So I don't remember most of anything. And so I went through that same thing. I'm like, oh, I should relearn that language or maybe a couple others or learn a new one or something. So I did the same thing. Like, I'm going to learn, these 2 other languages, and started. And it was fun. It was interesting. And I kind of was doing it just to see if I could, see how hard it would be.
Yeah.
But I didn't continue because went back to like, well, why? I'm not going to use these.
Yeah.
I don't at least in the daily, it's going to be a thing that like I'll have in my back pocket if I want to show off. And then it's just ego, right? Then that's why I'm learning it.
Yeah.
And that's not a long lasting motivation just to feed my ego about it.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like, you and I, we played music for so long that I think there are some kind of weird parallels to like learning instruments and learning to to kind of move your body.
Yeah.
But that like there are definitely plenty of folks who learned how to play an instrument like purely so they could impress somebody else. Yeah. And plenty of people that learned how to play an instrument so they could learn a new skill or better themselves, or it's something that was engaging and interesting to them. Yeah. And it's like 100% the same thing in the gym, that like you could totally be motivated to work out because you want to look good and aesthetic and you want to impress people,
which always is there.
And that's and then you can like be motivated to want to just be less injury prone or stronger at work or more flexible or whatever that is. That's totally personal.
Yeah.
I guess the nice thing is maybe in both of those, the like impressing other people thing will just sort of happen, even if it's not your prime motivator. Yeah. And it does feel good. Like getting complimented on being able to play an instrument well feels really good. Yeah. And like someone complimenting on, seeing a change or a transformation in your body feels really good.
Yeah.
So
I think the motivation is the same for both of those, at least for me.
Yeah.
On some, like if I strip down all of the ego out of it, right? Because I mean, I've told you, so I think I've even said it on here, like you don't get much more vain than I am when it comes down to it, like I'm always pretty honest about that. But if you strip away all the ego out of it, I really want to just be really healthy for as long as possible. Yeah. I want to be able to do the things I want to do as I get old. Right. Yeah. And so, which comes down to being able to run, squat, push and pull. Like I want to be able to pull myself up onto something, push off the ground, stand up, and then run. And so whatever helps me do those things well for as long as I can, then I'll do that. And music is kind of the same thing where it's not even a question. It's just there. It just has to be there.
Yeah.
And as much as I don't have as much time for it these days as I used to, it still doesn't leave. It doesn't go away. It's just stuck in your brain where you're always, whether you're playing or not, you're always thinking about it. You're always have a melody or a beat or something going on. And if it impresses people, cool. But it's like, it's so not even part of it's less of a question or a part of the conversation than fitness is for me. Like, I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think that makes total sense. Yeah. I kind of wonder too about someone, if you were like, maybe you were a huge, if we're in Seattle, so let's say you're a huge Sounders FC fan, and you have this soccer team that you really love and you fall in love with the sport, and it makes you think, I should just go maybe I should go play like weekend pickup soccer.
Yeah.
I can learn, like, it's a thing I love and I love watching it. Maybe I'll go learn how to play it.
Yeah.
And if that's something that you're engaged with, you're going to find all of these other side benefits that you would that you never would have imagined.
Yeah.
But like now all of a sudden you're getting out and you're meeting people and you're running and you're getting a workout in, and maybe you're feeling a little better. Your skill set's getting a little bit better, and it just like elevates both of those things. Like your enjoyment of watching the thing is now more, and now your enjoyment of doing the thing is more.
Yeah. That's something I always struggle with. I'm not much of a sports guy. And so I have a hard time relating to the people. You've gone through periods of this, of really into a sport and not participated in the sport. Yeah. Like, I'll watch a football game once or twice, and like I can find it kind of fun, but I just don't care when it comes down to it. And like soccer is the same way. If I was if I was watching soccer, I would just want to go play soccer.
Yeah.
And I probably would just go play soccer instead because that's way more fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a mindset I have a hard time relating to, the fan,
Yeah.
because I want to do the thing.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, I don't know if this is an interesting talking point, but we are kind of a sort of a society of armchair quarterbacks a little bit. It's so easy to be a diehard fan of something and not really know like all of the fundamental stuff that goes into it.
Yeah.
But it's easy to be passionate and then opinionated by way of being passionate about.
Okay, so
something.
here's a good question for you, because we're talking motivation, right? And what keeps us going, and how did you come back from your injury? It's like your back injury, right? You had back surgery. You had full on back surgery where they were fixing your nerves or something, right?
It was a ruptured disc.
Ruptured disc.
That
That's right.
led to total shutdown of L5S1 nerve down the right leg.
Do you remember how that happened? I don't remember how that happened.
Honestly, no inciting incident. I think it just was.
You were trying to itch your foot in the shower.
Maybe.
Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't quite that.
Okay.
It's similar. Though I will say,
like
my neurosurgeon, because I have one of those now, did tell me that as adults start to get older, and maybe you know this as a trainer or something like this, that the two most common causes of low back injuries are tying your shoes and sneezing.
Yep. Yeah.
And I do kind of feel like if you accidentally sneeze while tying your shoe, that's just it. It's
Game over. You're done.
Your back explodes and the whole thing is done. I kind of feel like for me, it may have just been just buildup of just poor body mechanics, putting a little bit of stress, and then me not being very good at listening to my body at that period of like having some pain and just maybe thinking I'm just going to kind of work through it.
Yeah.
And not really understanding.
How many years ago was this? I don't remember.
This would have been December of 2020. It was right pre-pandemic.
That's right.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
Coming up on the anniversary. I think it was 2020.
Yeah, that sounds right. But because up to that point, like you've been working out quite a bit. But if we're in the big picture, you were still kind of young in your fitness journey.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, because it'd been like 6 years.
Yeah.
Or so, somewhere around that.
Yeah.
So that your awareness is always increasing. I mean, like hopefully, even as a trainer, you're always learning something else and expanding, and you're that type of person. You're analytical enough that you're inquisitive enough on what we're doing and why we're doing it, and picking up on those things. So you picked up stuff faster than a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But you're still, it's new. So it's new information, and you can't take in everything all at once. So that would make sense that you're getting, you're learning, or you're not quite as aware of what's going on as, well, I'm sure you are now.
Yeah.
Because you feel it, right?
Oh yeah. Much better at listening to my body now. I think, I work, I'm a coffee roaster, which is just, is a physically demanding job. Whatever, there was just some chain of little things that led to, I think a herniated disc is awful. It's painful. It's debilitating. And then that will sometimes go a step further and rupture.
Yeah.
Which is what I did. And that's
I've had a herniated disc. That's not fun.
And that's the more permanent nerve damage side. So I have a small hole drilled into my spine, which is pretty fun.
So how long, was there at least an inciting event where it like triggered and you're like, oh no, like I can't move? Or was it a buildup of pain?
It was kind of a buildup. Yeah, it definitely was a buildup of pain. I was aware that there was something not quite right.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was just a morning where I was just feeling kind of tight and was trying to kind of move and stretch and limber up just a little bit.
Yeah.
And some movement in there. Yeah. And it was just, instantaneous. like
Yeah.
white hot lightning.
That's what it was. You were stretching.
Yeah.
Which is so, it's not what you think of when you think of a back injury, right? Like, well, I was just trying to stretch.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I clearly remember just sort of making my way back to the bedroom. And then I clearly remember passing out. That was it. But anyway, that I think that part is less interesting than, if you're talking about motivation to come back.
But let's talk about it, because you had that injury, and then how long before you? Because it was a journey to like get it done.
Yeah.
Because I had to figure out. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember the timeline being longer than just back injury, had surgery, done.
Yeah, I think regardless of anyone's feelings on our medical system, there are just, you kind of have to make it through your doctor, who can give you a referral to someone to get an MRI.
Yeah.
And then the MRI results can lead to a referral to a specialist. And then the consult with the specialist might lead to a decision to do surgery. And then we need to schedule the surgery. There just are, there's steps that you need to go through to make sure the right information makes it to the right people, that you've got the right people on your team, which I think is kind of how I thought of it, is just sort of assembling a care team of people,
right,
that we're all going to be there to help me through it. And that just was a long process.
Right. Okay.
More, maybe a month and a half.
Yeah.
Something like that. 2 months.
Before you had surgery?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. In my head, it was so much longer. I thought it was like 6 months or something.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as long.
Okay. So you're right. There's not more of a story there.
Yeah, no, but it still is. Yeah, it definitely is. That time is hard. It's kind of a lot of hurry up and wait.
Right.
Sort of time. Yeah, and then surgery is great. You get it done. Well, having the surgery done felt great in that I had it done.
I imagine.
And then it's 2 or 3 weeks of recovery time, and then you get to go to your physical therapy appointment.
Yeah. Which
I think to date may be the hardest thing I've ever done.
Always.
So yeah, I had basically no muscle control on and anything in my lower right leg through my foot, and then a little bit through my hamstring, where that nerve ran down the back.
Because even the size of your calves was dramatically different.
Yeah, there was.
You had lost so much muscle in your right leg.
Yeah, muscle atrophy, which, from injury to physical therapy in earnest, that was probably 4 months. I think the timeline makes sense. And like not being able to move anything.
Yeah.
And that, like, just learning how to do not even a full calf raise, but just to get my heel off the ground, standing on one leg was, it's excruciating.
Man.
So
sounds terrible.
Which is odd.
It was. I watched some of it. It was terrible.
Well, it's weird, that feeling. And if anyone in your audience has had nerve injuries where you can't move something, but you can do that thing where you realize when you want to move something, your brain just tells it to happen. And that part still works. So your brain is like, go ahead and move, and nothing happens. And then you like think harder. You're like, no, more, like really move. And that, like, it's the same way that, pushing a 30-pound dumbbell requires some effort. Pushing a 70-pound dumbbell, you have to push harder.
Yeah.
And your brain still pushes harder.
Right.
But nothing happens. And it is infuriating.
I've never had any
crazy.
nerve issue like that where there's a disconnect in communication. It sounds awful, and it was. It wasn't hard to watch, but it was. I felt the frustration through you. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks so difficult. So but I remember that time, especially because we were going through COVID and all that nonsense, and you had that injury, pretty substantial injury, coming from working out a lot to injury and then nothing. What was it like trying to come back to any amount of fitness anyway. Like, was that hard to convince yourself to do, or was it?
Yeah, I mean the physical therapy thing, it's easy to convince yourself to do that because you want to get something back.
Right.
And you want to just sprint through it as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Like I want to heal, I want to recover, I want to be back to normal now. Like what's the fastest we can do? I think it's probably common for a lot of physical therapists to have to tell their clients to slow it down, to take it easy.
There's a very specific process, and you have to trust the process.
And I was one of those where I was like, I just want to, how can we take, this thing's going to take 4 months. I want to do it in a week.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? Let's make it happen now. So that, pushing through that part is, even though physically it's hard, mentally it's easier because you want to go and you want to be done.
Yeah.
After that, like getting back into the gym for me was just managing. It was 100% mental at that point.
Right.
You know, I had assurances from surgeons and therapists that my body was healed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get back to normal, run, jump, lift, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Relearning how to jump was, like, you and I worked on a lot of that stuff after physical therapy. More of those other functional movements was, relearning how to jump was a weird thing.
Yeah. Because there was at least the part I remember going over a lot was learning how to trust yourself.
Yeah.
That you could do it, that you didn't have to favor one side, and that you could actually, put pressure on both feet.
Yeah.
Like it was a relearning of confidence.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, the mental side of that. I don't know what, I'm sure plenty of smart people have written a lot about how to kind of work through those mental blocks. But just being, unsure of your body, unsure if you can trust your body. There's that feeling that, anyone who's gone through an injury, I think you kind of feel like maybe your body betrayed you a little bit, and like, how do you get that confidence back?
Yeah. So what'd you do?
Yeah, this is going to be sort of like the initial motivation question, isn't it?
Right.
Man, what did I do? I mean, short of just showing up and doing the work.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it'll pop into my head as we chat.
Yeah.
Kind of what that was.
What the catalyst was. Yeah. I remember it being a difficult transition.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know how difficult it actually was. I just remember that you would talk about it a bit, about coming back.
Yeah.
And it took a while.
Yeah.
For it to come back.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm like, and there's always I'll say there's always excuses, and excuses are sometimes valid. I wouldn't say so. Like, there were always reasons, right?
Yeah.
Some of them were excuses, some of them were probably valid reasons, but I was, and I've told you this before. There was a point when you'd gotten over a hump. You'd gotten over a hump of, I won't say you're 100%, but like, we were going for short little runs, and we were back to lifting, and you were doing athletic movements, because that was a struggle for a while. It was like doing anything where you're up on your toes and you're having to bounce and having to shift side to side. Like that's a struggle, not just psychologically, but that was a struggle physically. Like even you graduated PT, you were fine. There was still an imbalance of muscle. Yeah. And so you couldn't move how you wanted it to. So like, you were over that hump a little bit. You weren't 100%, but we were back to doing most things in our workouts. And I remember telling you, like, I was very impressed. Wait, I'm skipping over something though, because you had back surgery, and then didn't you have a hernia too?
It was a tough year.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and so that's kind of my point, is you had multiple things. It wasn't just like you had a disc and you had surgery and then you on recovery. You had a disc, you had surgery, and then this is why I got confused on the timeline.
Gotcha.
Because then you had 2 more surgeries.
Correct.
Because of your hernia.
Yes.
Right? And so it was all of these things on top of each other. And I have clients, I have acquaintances, I have friends that have been taken out for taken out. They didn't die, but taken
That
out.
hernia just took them out.
Taken out of their habits.
Yeah.
Their healthy habits on for way less. And so I was super impressed that you did come back.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, especially for someone that didn't grow up. It's not like this is part of your life forever.
Yeah.
It's not like this was not mirrored for you, but there wasn't like examples of this growing up. You didn't necessarily have this like, oh, this is how you do things.
Yeah.
You get hurt catastrophically and you keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. If anything, I think I saw a lot of the opposite
Yeah.
of that, of like, yeah, you get hurt or your body kind of fails you. And so like, that's a pretty good sign that you can just kind of like, you can just sort of give up on it.
Right. I would say with your dad, you had that very, very recent experience. Right. And so the fact that you did it. You kept on showing up. Because I remember during your hernia journey, I seem to remember there was like a couple times where you came in and like you were starting to, and then you had to stop.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, I'm gonna do my PT at the gym.
Yeah.
And as like a stepping stone is normal workouts, and then you'd have to stop for a month or a couple months or something. And then it's like the fact that you came back, I've told you, super impressive.
Wow.
That
Thanks.
you did that, 'cause
that means a lot.
it's really hard to do.
And I would say, I think this is one where I could say, I think running is the thing that saved me in that. The hardest thing to do, walking to the end of the block and then back.
Yeah.
And then walking 2 blocks and then back. There was a lot of time there, during COVID where I would just go out in basically the middle of the street and just try to just jog down 2 blocks, walk back, jog down.
Yeah.
And then it was 3, and then it was 4, and then it was sort of around the block a couple of times. And that, I think, is where my body and my brain were like, oh, this feels good. The mental clarity of being outside, that feeling better and stronger physically, and really you can feel that progress almost day to day.
Yeah.
That feeling was really, really good. It was a little bit addicting.
Yeah.
Of I'm feeling better. I'm getting stronger. This is getting better.
Yeah. It was tangible. You could see it.
And that, I definitely have running to thank for that.
Yeah. And what do you mean? In what way? Oh, just because that's how you saw the progress? Yeah. I see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea that you could go and you could jog, at a 12-minute a mile pace for 1 mile and get back and be just pumped that you did it. It's I'm not training for the Olympics, but that feeling was so good.
Yeah. Running is such it gets put in this. I mean, I guess everything gets put in this category where it's it needs to be. It's so lofty, right? If you're not doing X, then you're not doing anything. But that's running helped your recovery. And it was only a block.
100%. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So people don't have to put this big goal on it where it's well, if I'm not running 3 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles, then what's the point? It's no, it's one step at a time. That's what every single runner ever does is you need to get to the end of the block.
Yeah.
And then if you get there and you can, go another one.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. And I think that, I guess that sums up kind of my big lesson in what the thing that running taught me is just to be proud of the work that you put in.
Yeah.
And just being again, just getting your shoes on and get out the door.
Yeah.
And letting that be empowering and letting that be a source of pride is huge. And so you'll have good days and you'll have crummy days, but you are always out there. You always have a day, regardless of what it is. For me, I think was pretty good.
You never, in my experience, maybe I'm wrong, you never come back from a run and regret the run.
No, ever.
Right?
The best runs, I mean, I have memories of the best runs I've ever had, and they almost are exclusively at the end of a long day, and I'm beat and I'm tired and I don't want to do it, but I'm like, you know what, I need to, either clear my head or I've got this, I had a stressful day and I want to sprint. I want to get this energy out. Yeah. And that's kind of how I'm going to do it. And man, those ones, in my experience, I just go and go and go.
Yeah.
And you're like, I've been out here, I'm 7 miles into something for a guy who thinks 3 miles is a long run. You're like, holy crap. Like you just go.
Yeah.
And you never see that one coming.
No.
Like you have no expectation.
No.
But the expectation is get the shoes on, get out the door, just be happy that you did something.
Yeah.
And man, it might turn into something real great.
But more often than not, the ones that you feel ready for and excited about are the ones that are just awful.
Yeah.
And like it's every step is a struggle and a battle, right? Yeah. What's the hardest run you've ever had? Do you have any recollection of the like run or we'll expand it to even workout?
I mean, hardest runs I've ever had hardest runs I've ever had were all short. It was all sprints, and it was trying to get my mile time down.
Yeah.
Is the closest I've ever come to wanting to throw up or wanting to pass out.
Have you
after
ever
running.
thrown up from a workout?
I had
running or weights?
Yeah. At the very, very early in this journey, I definitely had a couple.
At the bouldering gym?
No,
like that far back?
I think it would have been from runs.
Oh, okay.
Which I think I've realized about myself. If I kind of get into a headspace of something, I am the person that's going to go like a little too hard.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm trying to prove.
You're trying to impress yourself, man.
I kind of am trying to impress myself. But no, it's been maybe once or twice. It's been a long time now.
Yeah.
Man, hardest. This I think says a lot about like how in my own head I get, and I don't know for you, like how much of the challenge is physical versus how much of the challenge is mental in just lifting, running. I don't know much about distance running, but I know there's that wall. There's this point that where your body and your brain is like, we're done. We have to stop. We can't do any more.
Yeah.
And if you can just kind of get that one more step, you might just break through it.
Yeah.
For me, just convincing my body that it's okay in like a controlled, safe environment for my muscles to fail, to like lift hard enough that you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Do push-ups until you can't do them anymore.
Yeah.
Sprint until you cannot run anymore.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that always gets me.
Do you remember the first time you threw up from a run? Do you remember what the run was?
It would have been, it would have been around Capitol Hill in Seattle.
By yourself, I assume?
Would have been by myself. Okay. And I will tell you, I clearly remember where it was.
Yeah.
From my apartment.
I was going to say the first time is usually pretty memorable.
For any of you that are from Seattle that know Capitol Hill, Volunteer Park, beautiful, beautiful park in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of Seattle.
And you just defiled it.
And just outside of the park, there's this really great little overlook on a cliff. You can see, I think it's the 520 bridge. You can see Husky Stadium.
Yep.
You can see downtown Bellevue. You can see the water. There's park benches and there's big trees, and it's really is one of the nicest viewpoints in the city.
Yeah.
That is 100% where I threw up.
There were probably a couple of people like enjoying the view on a sunset.
There were 100% was a picnic.
People having picnics, literally eating food, and you're over there hurling into a bush.
And it's this kid who has like no business running as hard as he is, like hauling ass through the park, and somehow made it to this.
If I remember that spot correctly, though, that's like a halfway point.
Oh yeah,
right?
It wasn't particularly impressive.
Well, no, I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying that you made it. You still had to get home.
Oh no, yeah.
So you
100%.
You threw up halfway through your run, and then still have to run. What's that, like 2.5 or 3 miles home?
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's the only one.
That's awesome. The first time I ever threw up from a workout was in high school, and I had this. I was a pole vaulter, as everyone knows, but I was always getting suckered into all these sprints, and so I would do the 4x4 relay, I would do the 4x100 relay sometimes, and then my coach, who happened to be my uncle, so I feel like he probably poked me a little
extra
bit more
push,
than anyone
yeah.
else.
Yeah.
He was like, "You should try the 200." He also had me try the high jump and the hurdles, which all ended disastrously. But
So you just were doing decathlons.
Yes, yeah. He was like, try this. And so he's like, you should do the 200. And so he was like, no one at the track. I was always there after everyone else. And him, and I think my grandpa was there too. And so I got in the blocks. This is after, I'd already done a full day of pole vaulting and other stuff. And so I'm done. And he gives me the go, and I run the 200, and I make it. And he told me to start at the 200, and he was there, and then he ran diagonal across to catch the end. And I don't know if he didn't make it in time or something. Whatever reason, he didn't trust his watch because it was faster than he was expecting.
Okay.
Wasn't that incredibly? It was pretty fast, but regardless, it was. I'll be honest.
Hey man, you
But it wasn't. But I'd never ran one before. And so I think he was expecting a certain time, and it was faster than that. And so he's like, I don't think that's right. So he's like, can you do another one? So I just ran like 100% effort, and I'm not in great shape because I had injuries in high school. So I was like, my cardio was not awesome. And so I'm like, all right, I'll do it again. And I think I waited like a minute. Maybe because I was done for the day. Like I was frustrated.
I want to get this over
I just
with.
wanted to get home.
Yeah.
And he's like, take as long as you need. I'm like, I'm as ready as I'm gonna be. Like it's just one. Like let's just get this over with. So I ran it again, and I made it. And his watch was accurate, so he got what he wanted. And walking back, I made it across diagonal, and we had this little like this cage where he kept all the mats and the pole vault poles and everything. And I made it to there, and I was sitting there. And then it was all up.
Yeah.
Like it took probably maybe minute and a half before like everything was all back up. I'm like, oh no. One time before college, I did the sprint workout. It was like in between high school and college. I did a sprint workout with the college team, and I like sat by my car for 15, 20 minutes because like I felt like I was going to throw up. I was I was shaky. I was done. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to let this ride. Hopefully I throw up and I'm done. Nothing's happening. I'm not throwing up. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll get in my car and I'll leave. I made it a block. And then I had to like pull over into a gas station, open my door, and just threw up right outside my door. Like I couldn't even make it.
That's a pro move.
It was. I stopped the car. It wasn't while driving.
Oh, okay.
I think you had one while driving, didn't you?
That is a non-workout related story, and I am not interested in going into it. That was fish taco related.
Impressive.
And we'll let the listeners fill in any of the blanks they want on their own on the West Seattle Bridge. But thinking about, just like that idea of like pushing hard enough to throw up.
Yeah.
I remember when you and I were first working on, you were teaching me sprint form and working on sprints, and we do a bunch of stuff. I feel like 70% effort was kind of like a place where we were a lot. 100% rare,
super rare.
But I feel like we would do things where we do some stuff at 100%, and you'd be like, okay, we're gonna go, we're gonna do whatever. We're gonna, sprint 100 and then, jog out or walk
probably.
and whatever it is. We're gonna go 90%.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, and I would like run it, and you'd be like, great, we're going to do it again. This time, do 90%.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, and it's like quite a bit faster. And you're like, great, this time, actually do 90%. And it's a little faster. And you're like, oh, there's a lot more here. Maybe that for me is another just mental block.
Well,
where your brain's like, this is probably 90%. You're like, no, this is like 65. Come on. Like, it's there.
It's hard for people that don't have experience pushing themselves in various disciplines.
Yeah.
Because like
you got to learn it.
You might have, even for me, like I haven't been lifting really, really heavy in a long time. Some lifts kind of, but like let's use the back squat for example. Like in college, I got up to a very high weight. and I haven't lifted that weight in a long time. And I've gone through ups and downs of how much I'm lifting, but like especially past few years, I have not done very much of that exercise. I've done the exercise, but not a high weight of it.
Yeah.
And so getting back into weights that are near what I did in college would take not just a different physical state, like I need to get in more shape for that, but I would need to tap into a mindset that's different.
Yeah.
Like you've experienced, and the kind of what you're referring to in the running is like you do one lift and you're like, okay, I think I could probably do more. Like you think that it's your 90 or 80%. It's like, no, that wasn't actually. Let me actually tap into pushing myself and learning where that push is and what it's coming from. And so like sprinting, the same thing. You'd never really sprinted before, and I could just tell. I'm like, okay, yeah, that was quick. You can definitely go quicker.
Oh, yeah.
like, okay, no, keep up with me. And you did. You kept on increasing your speed every single time.
Yeah.
And I think we got to your. Actually, no, I don't think we ever got to your 100%.
I don't know that we did. Yeah.
Because by the time we might get near the 100%, you're winded, and then your cardio is gone.
Yeah.
But like if we're talking actual leg speed of how fast you can go, I don't think we ever quite tapped into it.
Yeah.
Because you always faster.
Yeah.
Every time.
Oh no, did we do it?
I think we did it.
We probably don't need to.
Yeah. I think that's about it.
Keep plying on, making people listen to this.
Yeah, we did it. Well, thanks for coming down.
Of course, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
happy to do it.
See you later.
All right, see you later.